Joining us now to help us better understand the situation is Edina Lekovic from the Muslim Public Affairs Council in Los Angeles. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
And also, Eric Spillman is literally standing by. Hello. He is standing by. Edina, you were here with us recently. We're so glad to have you back. It was interesting. We listened to some sound from someone from the Council on American Islamic Relations a little bit earlier this morning, talking about the fact, while this is good news, in the Muslim faith, it is not part of their faith, your faith, to dance on the grave of anyone, even a mass murderer like Osama bin Laden.
Yeah, that's certainly true. But, you know, on a day like this, let me just say that it would be dishonest to say that I'm anything less than filled with a huge sense of relief and a huge sense of gratitude. I think that President Obama and the National Security Team and the Navy SEALs, by eliminating Osama bin Laden, have done a victory for America and a victory for Muslims worldwide, frankly, because bin Laden and Al-Qaeda have represented a perverted vision of our faith. They have been more of a disgrace to our faith than any other single factor out there, and the reality of what Muslims worldwide want is being reflected in the Arab Spring today. People who are using peaceful means to create political change, that's the face of what Islam is really about and the kind of change that people are looking for. And so the death of bin Laden hopefully marks a symbolic turning of the page in our nation's history, and I hope that it also represents a nail in the coffin of Al-Qaeda's bankrupt ideology, because bin Laden sat for many years in his mansions while he sent young people to die for his empty rhetoric and his throne of self-righteousness.
I had not heard this phrase Arab Spring before, which I think is so interesting. And the other expert who was with us earlier this morning said this was sort of a further indictment of Al-Qaeda, that the fact of the matter is the people in the Arab world can facilitate change on their own.
And they've been, the people of the Arab world have been rejecting bin Laden's message, but with their feet, with their voices for the past 5 or 6 months now that we've been seeing these revolutions taking place. What they have been saying is we want change. And, bin Laden for a long time used this rhetoric of leaning on the grievances of the Muslim masses worldwide and saying the only way we can create change is by using violence. Well, they certainly have shown, proved him wrong, and we're seeing that happen, throughout the Arab world. It's not my phrase. Certainly, I don't know who coined Arab Spring, but I think it's a beautiful way of describing what's taking place. These are people who are reawakening and who are claiming their voices and claiming their faith. And what's beautiful, I think, about what has been taking place across the Arab world is that it hasn't been an Islamic struggle, quote unquote. It's been a struggle for freedom and democracy, and that's the face of what people worldwide are looking for.
And Edina, just briefly, I mean, that is true that there are people who are seeing this example of peaceful change and so forth, but we did hear the response from Hamas in Gaza, where they're almost making bin Laden into a martyr. Do you think there is a significant group of Muslims around the world who will believe that he is a martyr?
Hamas is an isolated minority, and we shouldn't look at it as anything more than that. They are a pocket that exists, and I think that the violence that Hamas has been using is also on its way out. Violence is not going to work. Again, the future is going to be determined by those who seek peaceful political change and who are able to get the democratic aspirations of the people out there. That's really that's the truth of what's going on out there, and they're just a minority. Look at the Muslims worldwide who are, noting this day with gratitude and relief.
How long do you think it'll take for, let's say, number 2 or number 3 to kind of regroup and we get a message from them? And what about the idea that when they do it, they go, wow, this guy wasn't really hiding in a cave or anywhere. He was living right on our doorstep in plain sight. If I decide, and I'm number 2 or 3, to take some sort of precaution, really hide myself, I can really continue on with this.
Well, I think you're absolutely right that we can't get comfortable. We can't get complacent. That in times like this, and we've been on the airwaves since last night when this news broke, and the reality is that we have to remain vigilant, and the reality is that bin Laden and Al-Qaeda, their primary victims in the last decade have been Muslims. They have killed 70% of their victims worldwide have been Muslims. So Muslims have more to gain with the end of Al-Qaeda than anybody else. And we can't get complacent. This has to be a time of continued vigilance, and we stand with law enforcement and with the authorities worldwide, and continuing to look out for any potential threats, because we've got to stay focused on keeping our country safe and and looking for better days ahead.
And we were talking about the fact that President Obama delivered this message in such, it must have been a hard thing because that message was going around the world, not just here in the United States. We know how we feel about this, but what a way to deliver that message. I thought it was beautifully done by him.
Boy, he struck the right tone. I mean, from really just sticking with the chord of victory and then also of unity, that we are all Americans. We are all, you know, taking victory in this moment, and also in the recognition. Let me tell you how well it will ring in the ears of Muslims worldwide that he recognized that, he said specifically, Osama bin Laden was a mass murderer, not the leader of Muslims, and that's the truth, you know, and that's how he's viewed by Muslims worldwide. Is he's a mass murderer who, you know, who has perverted our faith, and I think that that President Obama struck exactly the right tone in terms of talking about the unity that we have to hold in these days.
Edina Lekovic from the Muslim Public Affairs Council here in Los Angeles. We so appreciate when you lend your voice to our broadcast. Thanks so much for making time for us again today.
It's my pleasure. Anytime.
All right.
Thank you.
Time for a look at weather.